Folks, welcome back. So in this video, I'm going to demonstrate one of the new awesome features that have shipped in version 0.5.0. This is the amazing work of Patrick Vauach, once again. It is optimistic responses. So between the last release and this one, we've completely rewrote how the front-end store works. Basically, instead of just being a single blob, it is now sort of a tree of things, and you can remove stuff, add stuff into it, and so on and so forth. And one of the key things that this unlocks is optimistic responses. In particular, if you're making a network request, you might know some of the intended network response up front. So you can write that in, and when the network response comes back successfully, drop that and incorporate the new network response data. Or you can, for example, if the network response errors out, we'll just throw the data away and then show some sort of error state. For example, if you are making a mutation, triggering some sort of mutation, you might know the intended outcome. If you're setting the name of somebody to Mr. Smith, right? Well, you know that the intended outcome is that this person's name becomes Mr. Smith. So this is an example where you would be using optimistic responses. Now, in our case, we're just going to be using it on the home screen. So we might, for example, know that on this page, we know one of the pets. And we're just going to make up a completely new pet, but principle is the same. We might know one of the pets, maybe it's been stored in local storage, maybe you have some other source of the first pet, whatever, and we're going to go ahead and do that. So here, you see that we're using the API useLazyReference. Whenever we make a network request, we typically pass an entry point. So in this case, we're passing this entry point here. And an entry point will have this raw response type generated. So in particular, this is a type that we need to provide when we're providing the optimistic response. So let's go ahead and do that. The third parameter here will be a fetch options thing, and that takes a optimistic network response, and that takes that will be pets, and then that's an array, and the first pet will have, let's just give a weird ID, a new ID, pet foo, and then first name, Mr. Bigglesworth, last name, evil, and we need a picture. I have a picture right here from earlier looking it up. Let's go ahead and use that one. And then let's give him a tagline, which is throw me a bone here. Okay, so now when we load the home screen, if we end up making a network request, which we will do on like sort of the first time around, we'll immediately write this data into the store. And then we will attempt to render this, and this time it won't suspend. We won't see this full page loading, and instead we'll just see the Mr. Bigglesworth immediately rendered there. Now I'm also delaying the network response, so you see the loading state, so it's a little bit more exaggerated. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at how this works. Done my hot module reloading, so we'll refresh. Quite slow because of the super delayed profile I have on. Cool, we see this, and then we see everybody else pop in when the network responses come back. And of course, there's a follow-up request for the data for the image, and that takes an additional however many milliseconds to load because of this network thing, network profile. Okay, so that's an example of writing some optimistic data. What happened here? We made the network request. While that network request was in flight, we wrote some additional data into the store, which is basically Mr. Bigglesworth. And when that network response completed, we basically dropped that network response, and now everything was as if, that just doesn't affect anything anymore. And in the meantime, if something else was rendering the list of pets, we would have seen Mr. Bigglesworth there. In other words, the UI remains consistent throughout all this. All right, great. Well, that's just some of the awesome features that we've shipped in version 0.5.0. I hope you give it a try and join the Discord, star the repository, build things with it. All right, cheers.